Have you ever wondered why some people seem to attract peace, while others spend their entire lives chasing it? Two people can wake up on the same morning, face the same problems, experience the same setbacks, yet, by the end of the day, one feels grateful, the other feels defeated. The difference isn't luck, it isn't talent, and it certainly isn't money. The difference is the way they see the world. More than 2,000 years ago, the Stoics discovered something extraordinary. The quality of your life doesn't begin with what happens to you. It begins with who you become. Most people spend years trying to control the outside world. A better job, a bigger house, more recognition, more certainty. But the more they chase, the more exhausted they become, because the outside world was never designed to obey us. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Think about that. Not your salary, not your relationship, not your reputation, your thoughts. If that's true, then changing your life may have less to do with changing your circumstances and more to do with changing yourself. Today, we're going to explore 10 Stoic principles that quietly transform the way you think, the way you respond, and ultimately, the way you live. Some of these ideas may challenge what you've believed for years. Others may feel surprisingly simple, but don't mistake simplicity for weakness. Sometimes, the smallest shift in perspective creates the biggest change in life. Let's begin with the first principle. Stop chasing. Start becoming. Imagine you're standing on a beach, watching the waves. No matter how hard you try, you cannot command the ocean. You cannot tell the tide when to rise or when to fall. Yet every day, millions of people try to control life as if it were the sea. They chase success. They chase approval. They chase happiness, believing that the next achievement will finally make them feel complete. But have you ever noticed how quickly excitement fades? You get the promotion, and a month later, you're already thinking about the next one. You buy the house. Soon, it simply becomes the place you live. You finally earn the respect you wanted, only to discover now you're worried about losing it. The chase never truly ends. The Stoics understood that this cycle is endless, not because success is bad, but because no external achievement can permanently satisfy an untrained mind. Epictetus taught that freedom begins the moment you stop depending on things outside yourself for peace. Notice, he didn't say, stop working hard. He didn't say, give up your ambitions. He said, don't confuse achievement with identity. A tree doesn't spend its life trying to convince the forest that it's growing. It simply grows, quietly, patiently, every single day. What if, instead of asking, how do I become successful, you ask, what kind of person would naturally create success? That question changes everything, because now the focus shifts from chasing outcomes to building character, discipline, patience, integrity, courage. These are things nobody can take away. And strangely, when you become the right person, many of the things you once chased begin moving toward you, not by magic, not by manifestation, but because your decisions become wiser, your relationships become healthier, and your confidence no longer depends on constant validation. This is where real transformation begins, not in the world around you, but in the person looking back at you in the mirror. The present moment is the only place you have power. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. Before your feet even touch the floor, your mind has already traveled 3 months into the future. What if I fail? What if I lose my job? What if my health gets worse? What if they never respect me? By the time you finally get out of bed, you've already fought battles that never happened. Sound familiar? Most people don't live in the present. They live inside imagined futures. And the strange part is, the future they fear rarely arrives the way they expected. Seneca once observed, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Think about that for a moment. How many sleepless nights have been caused by things that never actually happened? How many arguments have you replayed only to realize the other person probably forgot about them hours ago? Our minds are incredibly creative. Unfortunately, they often use that creativity to manufacture unnecessary suffering. The Stoics believed that peace isn't found by predicting every possible outcome. Peace is found by returning your attention to the only place where your choices still matter. Right here, right now. Imagine an archer preparing to shoot an arrow. He checks the bow. He steadies his breath. He focuses on his target. Then, he releases. From that moment on, the wind, the distance, the movement of the target are no longer under his control. His responsibility ended the instant the arrow left his hand. Life works the same way. You prepare, you act, you give your best, and then you let go. Not because you don't care, but because worrying afterward changes nothing. Principle 2. The present moment is the only place you have power. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. Before your feet even touch the floor, your mind has already traveled 3 months into the future. What if I fail? What if I lose my job? What if my health gets worse? What if they never respect me? By the time you finally get out of bed, you've already fought battles that never happened. Sound familiar? Most people don't live in the present. They live inside imagined futures. And the strange part is, the future they fear rarely arrives the way they expected. Seneca once observed, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Think about that for a moment. How many sleepless nights have been caused by things that never actually happened? How many arguments have you replayed only to realize the other person probably forgot about them hours ago? Our minds are incredibly creative. Unfortunately, they often use that creativity to manufacture unnecessary suffering. The Stoics believed that peace isn't found by predicting every possible outcome. Peace is found by returning your attention to the only place where your choices still matter. Right here, right now. Imagine an archer preparing to shoot an arrow. He checks the bow. He steadies his breath. He focuses on his target. Then, he releases. From that moment on, the wind, the distance, the movement of the target are no longer under his control. His responsibility ended. The instant the arrow left his hand. Life works the same way. You prepare, you act, you give your best, and then you let go, not because you don't care, but because worrying afterward changes nothing. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every day, confine yourself to the present, not because the future doesn't matter, but because the present is where the future is created. Every meaningful decision, every habit, every conversation, every act of courage exists only in this moment, not yesterday, not tomorrow. Now, here's something most people overlook. Anxiety often disguises itself as responsibility. We tell ourselves, I'm just planning ahead. I'm just being realistic. I'm preparing. Sometimes that's true, but many times we're simply rehearsing pain before it ever arrives. And every rehearsal makes fear feel more real. What if, instead of asking, what if everything goes wrong, you ask, what can I do with the next 10 minutes? That question returns your power, because life isn't lived 1 year at a time. It's lived one decision at a time, one breath, one conversation, one choice. The present moment may seem ordinary, but it's the only place where your character is built, and character is what determines the direction of your entire life. So the next time your mind rushes toward tomorrow, pause, take one slow breath, look around, notice where you are, because reality is almost always gentler than the stories fear creates. Principle 3. Stop fighting reality. Have you ever noticed how quickly a small inconvenience can ruin an entire day? You're driving to work. Traffic suddenly stops. Someone cuts in front of you. Your phone battery dies. A meeting gets cancelled. None of these events are truly life-changing, yet somehow they steal your peace, not because they happened, but because part of you kept saying, this shouldn't be happening. Those 4 words quietly create enormous suffering. This shouldn't be happening. The Stoics understood something that most people spend decades resisting. Reality never asks for our permission. Rain doesn't apologize. Winter doesn't negotiate. Time doesn't slow down because we're not ready. Life simply unfolds, and every moment spent arguing with reality is a moment we lose twice. First, to the event itself, then to our resistance. Epictetus taught, don't seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do happen, and your life will go smoothly. At first, that sounds impossible. Does it mean we should never try to improve anything? Should we simply accept injustice? Stay in unhealthy relationships? Stop pursuing better opportunities? Not at all. Acceptance is not surrender. Acceptance means seeing reality clearly before deciding what to do next. Imagine a sailor crossing the sea. He cannot change the wind. Complaining about the weather will not move the boat, but adjusting the sails will. That's the Stoic difference. Most people waste energy demanding a different wind. The Stoic adjusts the sails. The circumstances may be unfair. The disappointment may be real. The loss may hurt. But asking, "Why me?" never changes the answer. A better question is, "What does this situation require from me now?" That single shift turns frustration into purpose. Marcus Aurelius faced wars, plagues, betrayal, the death of children. Yet, in his journal, he rarely asked, "Why is this happening?" Instead, he asked, "How can I respond with wisdom?" That's a question we can all ask, whether we're facing a difficult coworker, a financial setback, or simply a day that didn't go as planned. The world may never become easier, but your response can become wiser. And sometimes, that's the greatest victory of all. Principle 4. Protect your peace like your greatest treasure. Imagine this. Someone sends you a rude message. Maybe it's a coworker. Maybe it's a stranger online. Maybe it's someone you love. You read it once, then again, then a third time. Hours pass. You're still thinking about it. The other person has already moved on with their day, but they've taken something from you without even being present. Your peace. Most people believe peace is something they discover. The Stoics believed peace is something you protect every day. Someone will try to pull you into their emotional storm. A rude customer, an impatient driver, a negative coworker, a family member who always knows exactly what to say to make you lose your temper. And every time you react without thinking, you're handing them the keys to your emotional life. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You always own the option of having no opinion." At first, that sounds strange. How can you have no opinion when someone insults you? But look deeper. Not every criticism deserves your attention. Not every argument deserves your voice. Not every battle deserves your energy. Imagine carrying a backpack. Every insult you place another stone inside. Every criticism, another stone. Every unfair comment, another stone. Soon, you're exhausted. Not because life became heavier, because you refused to put the stones down. The Stoic asks a different question. Is this worth carrying? If the answer is no, leave it where it belongs, with the person who dropped it. Here's something fascinating. Emotion is contagious. Walk into a room full of anxious people, and your heartbeat subtly changes. Spend enough time around chronic complainers, and you'll begin noticing problems everywhere. Human beings absorb emotional climates without realizing it. That's why protecting your peace also means protecting your environment. Be careful who you listen to, who you admire, who you allow into your inner circle. Not because you're better than anyone, but because your mind becomes the company it keeps. Seneca warned, associate with people who are likely to improve you. That's Timeless advice. Peace isn't fragile, but attention is. And wherever your attention goes, your emotional life follows. So before reacting, pause. Ask yourself one simple question. Will this matter 1 year from now? Most of the time, the answer is no. And suddenly, the insult loses its power. Not because the other person changed, because you did. But protecting your peace is only half the battle. The next principle may be the hardest one for people who always feel the need to prove they're right. Principle 5. Learn the power of strategic silence. Silence makes many people uncomfortable. Have you noticed? The moment someone criticizes us, we rush to explain, to defend, to justify, to prove. It's almost automatic, as if our worth depends on convincing everyone else. But what if that's exactly what keeps us trapped? Picture two people arguing. One raises their voice. The other simply listens. No interruption, no sarcasm, no desperate need to win. Who appears stronger? Usually, the quieter one, because confidence rarely needs to announce itself. Insecure people need constant confirmation. Secure people need understanding. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." That wasn't merely advice about conversation. It was advice about wisdom. Listening gives you information. Reacting too quickly takes it away. Strategic silence isn't passive. It's intentional. It creates space. Space to think. Space to observe. Space to choose instead of react. Think about a judge in a courtroom. Imagine if the judge interrupted every witness before hearing the full story. Would you trust that decision? Probably not. Yet many of us judge situations before we've even understood them. Silence slows that process down, and slowing down often prevents regret. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Simple, yet incredibly difficult, especially in the age of social media. Today, everyone feels pressure to have an opinion immediately on everything. But wisdom sometimes looks like saying nothing at all, because silence can communicate things words never could. It says, "I refuse to be controlled by emotion." It says, "My peace matters more than this argument." It says, "I don't need your approval to know who I am." That kind of silence isn't weakness, it's discipline. Here's an exercise. The next time someone interrupts you, instead of jumping in, wait 3 seconds. Just 3. Notice what happens. You'll hear more. You'll understand more. And surprisingly, people often begin correcting themselves, because silence invites reflection. Noise usually creates more noise. One final thought. Many people fear silence because they think it makes them look powerless. The Stoics believed the opposite. The person who cannot stop talking is often trying to escape discomfort. The person who can remain calm without filling every empty space, has already mastered something far more valuable, themselves. So far, we've explored 5 principles. Stop chasing. Live in the present. Accept reality. Protect your peace. Choose strategic silence. Notice something interesting. None of these principles require money, status, talent, or luck. They require practice, because Stoicism was never about appearing wise. It was about becoming a little wiser every single day. And what comes next may be the principle that quietly transforms every relationship in your life without anyone realizing why. Principle 6. Stop trying to be liked by everyone. Let me ask you something. How much of your life has been spent trying not to disappoint other people? Maybe you agreed when you wanted to say no. Maybe you stayed quiet when you knew you should speak. Maybe you changed your opinion just to avoid being judged. It happens so gradually that most people never notice. One small compromise, then another, until one day they wake up living a life designed by everyone else's expectations. The Stoics believed that this is one of the greatest forms of slavery. Not chains around your wrists, but invisible chains around your mind. Marcus Aurelius never asked, "Will everyone approve of me?" He asked, "Is this the right thing to do?" Those are completely different questions. The first gives your life to other people. The second returns it to you. Here's something worth remembering. People's opinions are constantly changing. The same person who criticizes you today may admire you tomorrow, and the person who praises you now may turn against you later. If your confidence depends on their approval, then your confidence will always be temporary. Real confidence is much quieter. It comes from knowing that your values remain the same, even when opinions do not. So the next time you feel the urge to explain yourself or seek someone's permission, pause. Ask yourself, am I trying to be respected or simply liked? The answer may change your life. But even if you stop chasing approval, life will still test you, not with comfort, with obstacles. And that's exactly where the next Stoic principle begins. Principle 7. Every obstacle is training. Think back to one of the hardest moments of your life. At the time, it probably felt unfair, painful, unnecessary. Maybe you ask, why is this happening to me? Almost everyone does. But years later, many people realize that the experience they wanted to avoid was the one that changed them the most. The Stoics had a remarkable way of looking at hardship. They didn't ask, how do I escape this? They asked, what is this trying to teach me? Marcus Aurelius wrote, the obstacle is the way. 4 words, yet they contain an entire philosophy. Imagine lifting weights without resistance. Your muscles never grow. The same is true for character. without disappointment. Patience remains. Theoretical, without criticism. Humility is never tested, without failure. Resilience never develops. Life doesn't interrupt your growth. Life creates it. Every difficult conversation is training. Every setback is training. Every disappointment is training. The question isn't whether challenges will come. They will. The real question is, who will you become because of them? Principle 8. Build a reputation within yourself. Most people care deeply about what others think. Very few ask a more important question. What do I think about myself? Imagine living in two different worlds. In one world, everyone praises you, but deep inside, you know, you're avoiding responsibility, breaking promises, ignoring your values. Would those compliments really matter? Now imagine the opposite. Some people misunderstand you. Some criticize you. Some simply don't notice you. But every night, you can honestly say, I acted with integrity today. Which life would bring more peace? The Stoics believed that the opinion you carry of yourself should always matter more than the opinions others carry about you, because public reputation can change overnight. Character cannot. Seneca wrote, the greatest wealth is a poverty of desires. The same is true for reputation. The fewer compliments you need, the freer you become. Build a reputation inside your own conscience, and you'll never have to chase one outside yourself. Let's pause for just a moment. Think about everything we've explored today. Stop chasing. Live in the present. Accept reality. Protect your peace. Choose silence wisely. Stop seeking approval. Turn obstacles into teachers. Build your character before your reputation. Notice something. None of these principles require perfect circumstances. They don't require extra money, more talent, or a different past. They begin with a decision to stop fighting the only person who has always been standing in your way, yourself. Stoicism was never about becoming emotionless. It was about becoming unshakable, not because life becomes easier, but because you become stronger. Every challenge will still come. People will still criticize. Plans will still fail. Unexpected losses will still happen. But if your mind learns to remain steady, then the world loses its ability to control you. And perhaps that is the greatest freedom any human being can ever experience. Before you leave, I'd like to ask you one simple question. Out of all the Stoic principles we explored today, which one do you feel you need the most right now? Was it learning to live in the present, protecting your peace, or letting go of the need to be liked? Share your answer in the comments below. You might be surprised how many people are walking the same path as you. If this video brought value to your life, please consider subscribing to QMLG Stoic. Every week, we explore timeless wisdom from Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, and other great thinkers, to help you build a calmer mind, stronger character, and a life guided by wisdom instead of emotion. Until next time, remember this: you cannot always choose what happens to you, but you can always choose who you become because of it. And in the end, that choice will shape your entire life. The day you stop fighting the world, there comes a moment in almost every person's life when they quietly realize they're exhausted, not because they've worked too hard, not because life has been unusually unfair, but because they've been fighting battles that were never meant to be won. They've argued with strangers who never intended to understand them. They've chased approval from people who were never going to give it. They've replayed old conversations, hoping to rewrite words that were spoken years ago. And all the while, life kept moving without waiting. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, "You could leave life right now." At first, that sentence sounds unsettling, but it wasn't written to create fear. It was written to create clarity, because when you truly remember that your time is limited, something remarkable happens. Suddenly, winning every argument feels less important. Proving yourself to everyone feels unnecessary. Holding on to old resentment feels incredibly expensive. You begin asking different questions. Not, how do I make everyone like me? But, am I living in a way that I will respect tomorrow? Not, how do I avoid every failure? But, what kind of person am I becoming through these failures? Those questions change everything. Imagine an old craftsman working alone inside a small workshop. He isn't rushing. He isn't comparing himself to the younger craftsman. He isn't checking whether people approve of every piece he creates. Day after day, he simply returns to the work, patiently, quietly, faithfully. Years later, his work speaks long after his voice has faded. Character works exactly the same way. You don't build it in one dramatic moment. You build it in ordinary moments, repeated thousands of times. Every time you choose patience instead of anger, you are building character. Every time you choose honesty instead of convenience, you are building character. Every time you refuse to let another person's behavior determine your own, you are building character. No applause, no audience, no recognition, just quiet progress. And perhaps that is why the Stoics never chased greatness. They chased consistency, because they understood greatness is often nothing more than consistency practiced for a very long time. One final story. Imagine two people standing at the same crossroads. One spends years waiting for life to become easier, waiting for the perfect opportunity, waiting for confidence, waiting for motivation. The other begins walking, not because the road is clear, but because they understand. Clarity often comes after the first step. 10 years later, the distance between them was never created by talent. It was created by daily choices, small choices, repeated faithfully. That is the Stoic way. Your life is being written today. Imagine someone reading the story of your life. 50 years from now, they won't remember every stressful Monday, every rude comment, every delayed flight, every disappointing email. Those moments will disappear into time, but they will remember who you became. They will remember whether you lived with courage or with fear, whether you chose integrity or convenience, whether you allowed the world to harden your heart or strengthen your character. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, none of them promised an easy life. In fact, they expected the opposite: hardship, loss, criticism, failure, change. Yet somehow, they also believed that a peaceful life was still possible, not because life becomes gentle, but because the human mind can become stronger than whatever life places before it. That is the true promise of Stoicism. Not perfection, progress, not certainty, wisdom, not control over the world, control over yourself. And perhaps that is the greatest freedom anyone can ever discover. Before you leave, I want to leave you with one final thought. Tomorrow morning, nothing around you may have changed. The same job, the same people, the same responsibilities, the same challenges. But if you remember even one idea from today's journey, tomorrow will not be the same, because wisdom never changes the world all at once. It changes one decision, one conversation, one habit, one day at a time. So here's my question: which Stoic principle will you begin practicing today? Share it in the comments below. Your answer may inspire someone else who's walking the same path. If this video brought you even a little more clarity, subscribe to QMLG Stoic. Every week, we'll explore timeless wisdom from Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, and other great thinkers who remind us that while we cannot choose every circumstance, we can always choose the person we become. Until next time, take care of your mind, protect your peace, live with courage, and remember, a calm mind will always be stronger than a loud world.